Well everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the PlayStation 5 and compare it against the PlayStation 4 and see which specific console you should go ahead and buy in 2023. Now, I will tell you there's not really a right or wrong answer here. I think there's lots of similarity between these two consoles, but I still think in this day and age, even if you don't have any one of these consoles, PlayStation 4 is still a decent option, but definitely I would recommend going for the PlayStation 5. And every single way of the word, the PlayStation 5 is a better console. It can do everything the PlayStation 4 can do and then some. So I would just recommend going down that direction in the first place. But the PS4 is still okay. Like if you need an outdated kind of older console, go for it. But even then, I just recommend going for a PS4 Pro or PS4 Slim. Those would probably be better options. So if you want to pick up a PlayStation 5, links will be down in the description. You can get that from there. You can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside between them, this is where things get a little bit interesting. So with the PlayStation 4, again, this was a very good console. I thought it was a very decent console that Sony made back in, many years ago, almost like 10 years ago. There were a few different things going on with this console. For one, it was a bigger type of console, which I think was fine, but it was super smooth and looked so nice, and that was something I really did like about the PS4. The design of this console still looks very, very nice, and that was something that I really did like about the PS4 even back then. And now it still has almost like a timeless build to it. Maybe not as timeless as the PS5. If you take a look at the front of the PS4, you basically have two USB ports on the front. You have the eject button, you have the disc slot there too, and the power button. On the back, you have an HDMI port, you have the AC adapter, an auxiliary port, you have another USB, you have an Ethernet port, and that's kind of all you're getting on this specific console, but it's still really nice that we have that type of capability on this device because it looks so good. And there's still, a decent amount of I/O to have on this type of device, and I do think there were some dongles that you can actually attach to the front of this thing or the back of this thing to actually include some extra ports. So I think that was kind of a decent nice thing. With the PS5 on the other hand, this is why I like the PS5 so much, is because they did something that Microsoft still hasn't done yet, which I just find very, very weird. So on the PlayStation 5, on the front of this console, this is where things are very interesting. So you are basically getting, first of all, you are basically getting a USB port on the front. So it's a standard USB Type A port. Beautiful, I love having it. But you're also getting a USB-C port on the front of this console too, which I think is awesome. Having a USB-C port on the front of this console is amazing, and I love having that type of capability, and I'm so happy that this console has it, because that was something that I was kind of afraid of before, of some manufacturers not bringing it over. For some reason, Microsoft still hasn't brought it over to their console. Maybe they don't need it, but I'm very happy that this specific console has it because it is a very, very cool thing. Now, on the back of the PlayStation 5, this is another somewhat not complicated thing, but it's another cool thing going on. We're getting some more USB ports on the back of the PlayStation 5. We're getting the HDMI port. We're getting another Ethernet port, we're getting an Ethernet port on this console, and the AC adapter. So there is actually a lot of stuff to like on this specific device. There is tons of overlap between this and the PlayStation 4, but the design of the PlayStation 5 looks so much better. And we're 3 years into the lifespan of the PlayStation 5, and it is still looking more beautiful day by day by day. I'm kind of used to this design by now, but it's still something so cool, and I love the PlayStation 5 because it looks so beautiful just from that perspective alone. So that in and of itself gets a thumbs up for me, and definitely when it comes down to it, the PlayStation 5 is the better looking console every single way than the PlayStation 4. Now, I will say on top of that, in this day and age, there are already some big differences already happening between the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5. Now, the original PlayStation 4, again, this was a pretty big difference from the PS4 to the PS5. You're getting just a way faster console in every single way on the PS5 than on the PS4. For starters, you're getting twice the amount of RAM on the PlayStation 5 than on the PlayStation 4. That's a big difference. If you're wanting to go ahead and play any sort of game, you're going to be getting a much faster performing device from the PlayStation 5 than from the PlayStation 4. So that's one of the biggest difference I've ever seen. Just twice the amount of RAM just from that. That's a big difference. On top of that, from the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 5, you're going from a 500GB hard drive to a almost terabyte SSD. The speeds in which you can go ahead and use that SSD in is insane. SSD compared to hard drive, there's some advantages for hard drive here and there, but an SSD is the better one in every single way, and you are getting that type of capability from the PlayStation 5, and you're not getting that from the PlayStation 4, which again, is kind of an annoying thing for some people. On top of that, with the CPU inside, get this, the PS4 was a 1.6 GHz 8-core AMD chipset. With the PlayStation 5, that's an 8X Zen 2 cores at 3.5 GHz. So I would probably say it's twice the amount of power from that CPU than the CPU inside of the PlayStation 4. Now what does that mean for day-to-day games? Well, for a majority of people out there, no matter what game you're going to play, you're probably going to have a decent experience with, from both. Now, clearly the PlayStation 5 is going to be the better one in every single area, but the PlayStation 4 still has a lot of power in it. You have to remember that these games are optimized for the PlayStation 4, so really no matter what you're going to be doing, you're going to be getting a really decent console from the PS4, but keep in mind that hardware is fairly old now. The fans are going to ramp up like crazy. It's not a silent console. That was probably one of the biggest problems of the PS4 was just how loud that console was. On top of that, you're getting tons and tons of, other things that can be going on in the background of the PS4 as well. Things like updates not really being, there anymore for the PS4. They're still kind of there. Games not being as optimized as they used to be, and more games not really coming out for this console because it is outdated. But for the games that are already available for the PS4, they still look pretty good. They still look great. And if you have a TV that has pretty decent resolution, you can probably still output no matter how high the resolution. You can upscale it if you want to, but really it's 1080p that you're kind of tapped out at. But it's still a very nice console with a decent amount of power inside. With the PlayStation 5, I would say this is also still a very good console. I think, Sony did a good job with the PS4, but the difference between the PS4 and the PS5, it's not even funny. You're just getting so much more power and so much more capability from the PlayStation 5. And that was one of my most favorite things about the PS5, that again with the PS4, it's good, it's great, but you are getting a much better console from the PlayStation 5 in every single way than from the PlayStation 4. So I think that is another big thing to keep in mind here too. If you're getting something like the PlayStation 5, you have to keep in mind that that's going to be a console that you're going to use probably for many, many years to come. The best way that I explained it back in 2020 that I still think is still, more than adequate today is that with the PlayStation 4, that console was at the end of its lifespan in 2020, and it's still at the end of its lifespan. It lasted longer than I thought, but it's at the end of its lifespan. It's not getting really any more games or big titles going on it, maybe some here and there, but it's pretty much done. For the PlayStation 5, it's still feeling like it's just getting started. Even though this console's been out for a couple years, it still feels like this console has a lot of power inside of it and has a lot of capability, and it really still kind of only makes sense to kind of recommend buying this type of console. Even a PlayStation 4 Pro I wouldn't really recommend buying because it has the same architecture and almost the same lifespan as a PlayStation 4. So you might as well go ahead and buy something like a PlayStation 5, which makes way more sense for me to recommend to people. So overall, what I'd recommend telling you is that I like both these consoles, don't get me wrong, but the PlayStation 5 is the one I would recommend a majority of people to buy, and that would be the one, and that would be the direction I'd recommend going. I wouldn't recommend going down this PlayStation 4 direction if you don't want to. If you have the option, if you have the money, go for the PS5. The jump up from a PS4 to PS5 is also a pretty big jump now, but the choice is yours. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.